just because I'm technically medium.
You are welcome to ping either myself, Justin, or Melissa.
Thank you kindly. All right, I guess we're ready to begin. Melissa, are you ready to take roll call? Oh, Patty's having issues. All right. Hi, Patty.
Hello, I'm here, just having issues with my camera, but I'm here.
Welcome. We're glad you're here, Patty.
Thank you.
Okay. Roll call, Melissa.
Melissa, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Yoo-hoo.
I'm so sorry about that. Are you able to hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. We'll start with the roll call. Commissioner Zisser?
Present.
Okay.
There we go.
Perfect. Thank you. Vice Chair Magana?
Present.
And Commissioner Ramsakar? Absent. And Commissioner Reyes?
Here. Thank you.
Commissioner Thurston?
Here.
Chair Mahini Guru?
I'm here. You can call me Chair Wendy.
Chair Wendy. Commissioner Mendoza? Commissioner Kelly?
Sitting right here.
Perfect. Commissioner Jolly?
I am here.
Commissioner Ramos? Absent. Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Allen?
Present.
And Commissioner Malillo? Absent, but we do still have quorum with 9 commissioners present.
All right, Melissa, could you put it in the chat when the other commissioners arrive, just so that I know they're here?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. All right, folks, let's move to the consent calendar. I need someone to make a motion to approve the April 20th agenda and approve the minutes from March 16th.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen, and second, Commissioner Kelly.
And
Is there?
Chair,
Go ahead.
Chair, we just have one change to the announced agenda. The presentation on the winter book giveaway and educator book bundles is being deferred for a month.
Thank you, Anne. Bump in anytime. Okay, so we have a change to our agenda for today. Can I go back? Oh, Commissioner Jolly.
Yeah, when I was reading the minutes, it referenced approving the agenda for today's date. So I think the dates in the minutes from March 16th meeting might be wrong.
Ooh, good catch.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Oh, you always catch those, Commissioner Allen.
I usually do. Shame on me.
I will amend our vote and our, do we have to go back? Yeah, we do, for first and second. So we have two things to change in our consent calendar. One, on our current agenda, we're deferring item D, informational winter book giveaway. And Commissioner Jolly pointed out we need to change some dates on, is it April 20th one, Commissioner Jolly, or March 16th?
The minutes, I don't have them in front of me. I looked at them earlier today, but it says, when it said approve consent calendar, it had today's date in last month's minutes.
Okay, with that change, can I again have a first and second?
Move the amended agenda and the amended minutes for 3/16.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Thank you,
Commissioner Jolly, seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Jolly. I got you, Commissioner Kelly, next time. Let's go for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone need to abstain? Moving right along. I'm double checking, just so everyone knows I have two monitors going and I'm going between the agenda and the run of show. So I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, here we go. There's no correspondence. Is that still the same since I just got this, Ann?
Correct. There's no correspondence.
All right, it looks like we are ready. If there's any folks that have joined us today that want to address the commission on agenda items that are not on the commission agenda, now would be your point to do so, and you'd have 2 minutes. If you want to, please raise your hand and let us know, and we'll begin your time. All right, it looks like we're good to go to keep moving on. Thank you, Melissa. Ready to move to discussion items. I'm going to make sure. Okay, here we go. Okay, our first one is Youth Commission update and announcements with Miss Commissioner Hong. The commissioner is going to receive our announcement and updates from the City of San Jose Youth Commission. Take it away, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. And for future reference, my pronouns are they, them, so I'll be using the title mix in the future, respectfully. Is my slideshow in this slide deck, or am I allowed to share my screen?
Melissa, go ahead.
The slideshow is in the deck, but what I can do is give you hosting permissions and you can share your screen.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, thanks. Alrighty, can everybody see my screen all right? Good. Okay. So I am happy to announce that on April 15th, 2022, the San Jose Youth Commission and the San Jose Public Library finished our annual teen survey. We had a total of 1,015 responses. And let's go through the demographics. We have a distribution of grades from 6th to 12th grade. Some are parents and some are other, which they specified. And in here, we can see the exact percentages of where people are coming from. Most of the people who responded to the survey were high school youth or like in that area. As for library usage, this question asked how many times per academic semester youth use the library to check out books, do research, attend an event or program. We can see that people who took this survey were pretty avid library users. Most of them had used the library services 1 through 6+ times, with a smaller portion of them never using. And for here, we can see the exact percentage breakdown. Next, we have racial and ethnic identity. This year, we took a different approach and broke up the term Asian into multiple subgroups to account for the differences that Asian Americans each face within their own diasporas. So we got to see the specifics such as Southeast Asians, which is our Vietnamese and Cambodian communities, South Asians, also known as Indians, and East Asians, such as Koreans and Chinese people. And there. Next, we have our languages spoken at home. San Jose is extremely diverse, so we have English, Spanish, Vietnamese, which are the top 3. And then next is Mandarin. Other is also specified later, such as Arabic. And I think there was Croatian on there. It was a very diverse breakdown. Here we have gender identity. The majority of the survey takers were female, with the rest were male or other. And this is, again, the exact percentages. And here we have LGBTQIA+ community breakdowns, with roughly 20% saying yes, they are part, some questioning, and 70-ish saying no. And here we have first generation born in America. In the survey, we clarified that first generation meant that you are the first generation. Say you have immigrant parents, you as a youth are the first generation to be born in the United States. And this was really interesting because we found that the proportions of people saying yes was actually similar to San Jose's overall population of constituents who also state that they are first generation. And now we get into the policy area of our survey. This section of the survey asked how much youth support a specific policy idea that the San Jose Youth Commission has previously supported on a scale of 0, so not at all, to a scale of 5, which is very much so. Question number 11 was on San Francisco's Karen Act, which is an act that criminalizes racially motivated and discriminatory 911 calls. We added a context section in order to describe the nuances of such a policy. So for this, we stated the San Francisco Karen Act, caution against racially exploitative non-emergency calls, outlaws 911 calls that are made solely to discriminate against people on the basis of their race, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, and other factors. This scored a 4 out of 5. As a median, the mean was slightly higher. And the next question was on sustainable architecture. This policy idea asked whether youth supported a sustainable architecture requirement in San Jose for all high-rise buildings and large-scale construction sites. The context for this would be that all high-rise buildings and large-scale construction sites built in San Jose will be required to use what is defined as sustainable architecture, also known as green architecture, which will incorporate environmentally friendly designs and structures to lessen negative environmental impacts. We found that our environmental policies actually had the most support, with a mean of 4.16 and a standard deviation of 0.97. Next, we have a requirement for strategic deconstruction where all direct demolition is banned. Deconstruction is a process of slowly unassembling parts of a building in order to save more parts for recyclable use. The context is that excess building materials from city-sponsored construction sites are to be repurposed instead of going elsewhere, such as landfills. Here, our mean of support was 3.95 with a standard deviation of 0.96. Next, we have requiring all public facilities to carry free menstrual products. The context for this was that all public facilities owned by the city of San Jose, such as park restrooms, community center restrooms, etc., will be required to carry free menstrual products free of charge in their restroom facilities at no cost to the consumer. At the time when this policy was proposed, we were pursuing gender equity. The mean was a 4.21 score of support with a standard deviation of 1.02. And I'd also like to clarify that if youth did not feel that they had enough knowledge to state whether they supported or did not support a policy, they also had the option to skip the question whatsoever. Next, for question 15, this is our lowest. We have the proposal of lowering the voting age in local elections, mayor and city council members, to 16. The context was that in local elections, such as the mayoral or city council member elections, 16-year-old citizens would be able to vote. Currently, you must be at least 18 years old to vote. Here, the mean was a 2.98 with a standard deviation of 1.24, so youth were a bit polarized by this question. Next, we have requiring all police officers to get a mental health check every 2 years. The context is that San Jose's police department would be required to administer an in-depth mental health check to police officers every 2 years and will adjust officers' responsibilities according to how mentally fit they are to do their jobs. Some additional context for this specific policy was that this policy was proposed during the time of the Black Lives Matter protests. It was Commissioner Escobar and I that specifically pursued this policy after a town hall with the acting police chief. The mean for this had a lot of support with a score of 4.30 and a standard deviation of 0.9. Next, we had requiring all recyclable wood in construction sites to be recycled. Excess wood used in any construction site must be recycled instead of being sent elsewhere, aka like landfills. Here, the mean was 4.29, again showing that youth had a very strong emphasis on environmental sustainability within the city, and the standard deviation was 0.90. Next, we have requiring all brick and mortar stores, such as in-person stores like Target and restaurants, to accept cash up to $20. The context was that brick and mortar stores, such as pop-up shops and restaurants, would be required to accept cash up to $20 in person. The reason we set the limit at $20 was because there was a concern among the commissioners at the time this policy was passed about whether or not a specific store had enough cash in order to give change. The mean for this was slightly lower at 3.58 with a standard deviation of 0.99. The next section of this survey is ranking the importance of priorities within the city of San Jose from a youth perspective. The scale is similar, with 0 stating that this issue is not important at all, and with 5 being that this issue is very important to the youth. For the housing crisis in San Jose, this earned a mean of 4.11 with a standard deviation of 0.96. So we could see that the housing crisis in San Jose is a very important topic to youth. Next, we have job availability in San Jose, which scored slightly lower at 3.92 and a standard deviation of 0.96. We also have the issue of student loan debt with a mean of 3.89 and a standard deviation of 1.10. So there was more polarization about this one. Environment and climate change received one of the highest ratings with a mean of 4.32 and a standard deviation of 0.96. Transportation, not including the VTA, we included that detail because sometimes it's hard to tell the differences between county and city powers. This specific issue had a mean of 3.4 with a standard deviation of 1.08. Access to learning materials such as SAT materials, AP materials, and tutoring such as the tutoring that the library currently offers earned a mean of 4.19 with a standard deviation of 0.97. And lastly, diversifying local politics earned a mean of 3.61 with a standard deviation of 1.19. And that is the end of our slideshow. We are currently going through the individual responses at the end of the survey, which asks youth specifically about their priorities and what they believe should be an idea or a proposal in order to help the city of San Jose become a better city in the future. We're going to be sifting through that, and afterwards we are going to be hosting a policy-thon on May 4th in order to live stream and teach youth in an interactive and engaging way how to write a policy memorandum. That is all from the San Jose Youth Commission. Are there any questions at this point?
Thank you, Commissioner Hong, not only for the presentation, but for the pronoun correction. So I want to offer, I know we have 2 people in the public. If there's any first public folks that would like to make comment, now would be the time. Moving on, then commissioners, are there commissioners that would either like to make comment and or ask questions of our spectacular youth commissioner? Commissioner Allen.
First, I want to really thank you for such a detailed and informative report. I really appreciate that. I wanted to ask if you have an opinion as to why you think the student loan debt question was so polarizing.
My personal opinion as a private citizen is that I believe student loan debt is extremely polarizing, since now there is an expansion of trade opportunities and youth may not feel that student loans are a real threat per se to their financial stability. Since the majority of our demographics were located in the high school range, it is safer to assume that most of us have never held a loan, as we are not over 18. So it's likely that we may not fully understand the repercussions of things such as interest and how loans can ultimately be very detrimental to one's financial health.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Any other commissioners with questions or comments for our youth commissioner? All right, then I just want to say, oh, thank you, Commissioner, from Jill. Yeah, that's beautiful. I also want to say thank you. The report's really interesting, and I don't think we would have necessarily thought about that perspective. So I really appreciate that you're coming from community and youth community in particular to tell us what you're thinking, which also informs when you become adult community. So thank you for doing that. I will be interested to see year over year if it stays the same or if things change. And if so, what are the differences? So I'd really love to continue this conversation with you. And so if you would let your commission know that we really appreciate it and look forward to it again when you do it in the next round.
Thank you, Chairperson.
You're welcome. All right, I'm going to do a little quick change in the, do a quick addition in our discussion items. I'm not sure the Robert's Rules of Order on this one, but I'm going to ask Jill, because I was moving so quickly in the beginning because I was running a little late, to talk to us about, so we have some new commissioners and we're very excited to announce them. So Jill, would you mind covering for me and welcoming our commissioners, please?
Thank you, Chair Wendy. Yeah, no problem. I can also do it as an introduction to the next informational item. So we're super excited. As the commission knows, we've had some vacancies and very pleased to welcome 2 new commissioners tonight. First, from District 5, we have Anarita Reyes joining us.
Hello, thank you.
Welcome. So good to meet you and have you here. And next, in one of our citywide education seats, we have new Commissioner Kristen Brown.
Hi, thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for committing your time to us. We really appreciate it. And look forward to working with you some more. And so welcome. And with that said, we'll move on to letter B. I can't believe as a librarian, I almost said number B. And it is my great pleasure to introduce our Library Foundation Executive Director, Ms. Dr. Dawn Coppin, and your Commissioner peer, who is the liaison to the foundation, Commissioner Hillary Thorson.
Thank you very much. Well, we are happy to be here again this year and give our annual update on all things Library Foundation that we've been doing on behalf of the library. And I know that Commissioner Thorson has done a fantastic job over the last couple of years now that she's been our liaison in bringing items to your attention that are happening at the Library Foundation. But this is our opportunity once a year to come and just dive a little bit deeper into what we've been doing in the last 12 months. So we do have a slide presentation. And Melissa, do you want to run that, or would you rather we share our screen?
Melissa might be having a hard time coming off mute. She'll go ahead and click through, just let her know.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So with that, Commissioner Thorson, if you want to take us away.
Yes, thanks so much, Dawn. Hi, everyone. As Dawn mentioned, I've been the liaison for the Library Foundation for, I think, the past couple of years now. So I give a report each month, and I'm excited to share all of the work that the foundation has been doing in 2021. Similar to last year, 2021 was an unpredictable year as a result of the pandemic, but the foundation was very successful in fundraising efforts and able to help support library staffing costs that would have normally come from the city's general fund. Also, this past year, the advocacy committee, which is comprised of members of the foundation board, commissioners, and friends of the library, worked to restore library hours. As you know, they were cut by 4 hours, and we all worked successfully last year to have the funding restored at 13 of the branch libraries. But that was one-time funding, so the work continues, and the advocacy committee is still meeting regularly. So you'll hear more from me about that later on during my monthly report, but just wanted to say that work is ongoing, and if anyone on the commission is interested in participating in that, please let Dawn and myself know. And after this, I'll send a few links so that you have access to some of the things that I'll be mentioning. So Melissa, could you go to the next slide? So there are a number of program highlights, and I want to say that this is only a snapshot of the support that the foundation provides the library, and by no means includes all of the programs and projects that the foundation helps fund. And each year, the foundation is really responsive to the needs of the library. So programs and funding levels might vary from year to year. So if you notice a difference from past years, that's likely the reason. And so this past year, we're excited to have the Resilience Corps, where 50 young adults were hired and placed to work part-time after school at 5 community-based organizations. And those included the library itself, Parks and Recreation with the city, Catholic Charities, Boys and Girls Clubs, and the Bay Area Tutoring Association. And these young adults helped K through 12 students who were struggling academically. And one of the great things this past year is that they were able to help the library with their Coding 5K classes and are working with them to expand the number of those that are offered. And that also is a benefit for the young adults themselves in giving them some additional work experience. Another really wonderful program that I know some of you have heard about is San Jose Aspires, and that helps students have success in a community or 4-year college program by offering them microgrants, counseling, and membership. And this program began as a pilot program in 2019. And in 2019, it served 260 students. And the enrollment grew in 2020 to 725. And we're really excited that this past year, 2021, the total number of students enrolled is over 1,400. So that's a really great expansion over the course of just a couple years. And those students span 9th to 11th grade. And this past year, they claimed 4,500 awards and earned nearly $300,000 in scholar dollars. Another really important program, especially during the pandemic, is the Family, Friend, and Neighbor Caregiver Support Network. So this support network provides community for caregivers and also gives them training in things like the computer and internet, first aid and CPR certification, and child development training. And it was really wonderful. In 2020, the program started with 52 caregivers, and last year expanded to nearly 200 caregivers. So that's an increase of 55%. And so these caregivers are serving more than 600 children and able to give them a high quality care and learning experience. So that's been a really successful program this past year. Next slide, please. Some other programs to highlight. These are for younger children and school-age children. So the library offers some excellent story times that use the education quality standards that have been developed by the library as part of the Education and Digital Literacy Initiative. And during the pandemic, these story times had to be adapted to be virtual. And as we've been coming to a new point in the pandemic, they've been in person and virtual. So more than 4,500 of these story times are offered across the city and online. And also added online and phone story times in multiple languages were provided so that if people didn't have access to the internet, they could just call in on their phone to hear a story with their child. And more than 28,000 children participated in the story times. Another great program is San Jose Learns. So this program provides grants for after school and summer learning programs. And in 2021, 19 elementary schools participated, and that was a jump from the 13 who participated in 2020. And these schools are in under-resourced neighborhoods. 5,000 students will have been served by June of 2022, and 69% have demonstrated growth on academic assessments. And Another really fun program that the library offers every year is the Summer Learning Program. So in 2021, that program that encourages reading and engagement with the library over the summer gave out 38,280 books with 50 grand prizes and 7,524 signups. Next slide, please. And some of the programs that the library supported for the adult community, one of them is Partners in Reading. So this is a really wonderful program that you may have heard about before. It improves the lives of adults by supporting them in reading, writing, language, technology, and other skills so that they are able to engage in these areas with greater confidence. And programs related to digital literacy, English as a second language, and family literacy are also offered. And so this year in 2021, there were 11,128 tutoring hours. 79% of adult learners met their learning goals, and 1,435 books and 3,600 educational kits were distributed. And each year there's a wonderful event where the Partners in Reading gather to celebrate their success. And so I think the last one was fairly recently, but definitely keep your eye out for that, because participants in the program share their writing and read their stories with everyone. And it's a really engaging and wonderful event to attend and see what other community members are doing. So another program that I wanted to mention is SJPL Works. So this has been extraordinarily important during the pandemic as people were forced to leave the workforce. And now that hiring has picked up and things are returning to some sort of normal, SJPL Works has been helping both people and businesses. They offer resume assistance, mock interviews, job applications, and career transition help, and help businesses with referrals and market research. So in 2021, they held 664 workshops and 2,143 participants participated. So another really successful program that really impacted the city as it's recovering during the pandemic. Next slide, please. So just to go overall, take a look at the overall funding for the different programs the Library Foundation provided this past year. For the City of San Jose's Education and Digital Literacy Program with the Public Library, staff was supported with $357,000. Early education programs like the We Learn and Summer Learning received $200,000. The Coding 5K Challenge, which gives children access to technology and coding programs, would receive $269,100. And SJ Access, which has been a really key component of the library's response to the pandemic and has provided residents and students with reliable access to the internet, received $190,100. And then San Jose Aspires, which I talked about earlier, received $3.3 million. So now I'll turn it over to Dawn to talk about 2021 financials in more detail.
Thank you, Commissioner Thorson. I also want to take a moment to welcome and thank our board, and I'm very happy to say that our Vice Chair, Rebecca Lee, is here. You will see her in the public side of the attendees. So really happy that we have a new strong vice chair to help us lead into the next stage of our growth. And also Jody Pulliam, a staff member who's in charge of corporate relations, is also able to be with us this evening. So welcome and thank you to both of you for participating in this. And for the new commissioners, I also want to just take a moment to explain what the Library Foundation is via the work that you do. And so the way we like to think of it is that there is a triumvirate of support groups for the library. And obviously the Library and Education Commission is one of those groups. The Library Foundation is another, and we work at the system-wide level. So looking at the library as a whole entity in all of its 25 sites as well as online. And then the third partner is all of the individual friends groups as well. As Hilary mentioned previously, we do work collaboratively around issues of advocacy. And I'm very happy to say that in comparison, oh, Melissa, can you go back? In comparison to some other library systems, we have a really great relationship among all three of our entities. And I just want to point that out because it is marvelous and it strengthens all of us. And I know we are the envy of many other library systems. So with that as a little bit of background, I just want to go into then this financial snapshot for 2021, and you'll see here how our income streams are broken out and then how we actually spend the money that we receive philanthropically as well. One thing to note here is that we're fortunate to have a fairly diverse stream of income, with almost a third coming in from corporate entities, just over a third from government entities, and then the remaining third being individuals and some foundation, formal foundation grants. And then we take all of that money and we don't spend all of it in 1 year, because many of the grants that come to us, particularly like that 3.3 million that was raised last year for SJ Aspires, is to be spent out over the course of many years. And so this is the reason why, if you're looking at this and saying, oh my gosh, you raised all of that money, why didn't you spend all of it on the programs at the library? And oftentimes it's because there's some very specific time limit restrictions on the funds that we can use. They are deliberately intended to be raised next year or the year after. For SJ Lands, it's a 4-year program. So we need to make sure that we have that money in hand year over year. However, when you look at the program side, I'm very proud to say that 86% of the expenses that we do pay are all program related, and that can be in the form of paying expenses directly. It can be in the form of giving the money over to the library, distributing it for them to then pay directly, or in many cases to reimburse costs that they've incurred for the programs that we are supporting. So this is how we look right now. And if you can go to the next slide, please. This is what we look like over the course of our 35 years of supporting the library. I'm very happy to say that this is our 35th anniversary this year, which means it's our coral or jade anniversary, whether you are traditional or modern. And so what you can see here is that we've really grown as an organization, and and what if you're very quick off the draw and you're able to do some quick calculations here, you will see that over the 35 years that we've been in operation, we have raised nearly $35 million for the library itself. So it's really exciting. And it also sets the stage for what do we do next? What's the next 35 years going to look like? So next slide. One of the ways that we like to work together with the Library Commission is to use you and your networks as ambassadors. Part of your role is to talk to a lot of the people you know, whether they're colleagues or friends or other social networks that you're part of, community members, community engagements and gatherings. And remember that as you are talking up the library and spreading the great word of all of the fantastic things that the library do, to remind people that if they value this, that they can also support it philanthropically with a gift to the Library Foundation and or their local friends group. And so here are some of the ways that as a 501c3 recognized nonprofit, we are able to receive charitable donations. The website there will also give you a number of other ways in more detail. If, for example, you're interested in donating a vehicle, just like you hear about on all of the NPR stations, we also will accept that, and we will take that off your hand and put the money to good use in supporting the library. But there's more information about each of these elements at our website, sjplf.org/ways to give. Next slide. And as I mentioned, it's our 35th anniversary. So we have this fancy dancy new 35th anniversary logo, which we'll be using for the remainder of 2022. And wanted to give you a heads up that we will be having a brilliant, fun, entertaining, like talk of the town event in October 20th. And it's going to be held at the Dr. Martin Luther King Library. And please mark your calendars for this date. We have limited seating or limited space, and so I would hate for you to get tickets too late. But so I'm giving you a heads up now, and we'll be coming to you with more information regarding that, and hope that you can join us. And then just a little bit on the right-hand side, as I'm looking at the screen anyway, we have some of the seals of approval, just so that you know that we are a reliable and trusted and valid organization that has been given many awards of recognition for our philanthropic work and transparency. So with that, I thank you for your attention, and I really enjoy working with you to support the library, and are eager to figure out ways that we will continue to do so for the next 35 years. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Just a quick, mostly for the newer commissioners, but I wonder if we can go back to the slide that shows the growth. I think, Melissa, if you're running the slide deck, can you go back? Yeah, right there. So Dawn, I know Jill has done a really good job of making sure that all the people related to the library are excellent in one way or another. I wonder if you might tell us when you joined.
That was not a planted question.
It was not.
So I started on January 1st, 2018.
That I'm not saying, but I'm saying, I think we might point out the excellent work that you've done on behalf of the foundation and in turn the library system. There's no doubt, we knew when we were thinking about this that we needed a dynamic, spectacular partner in the foundation, and we're so glad that it's you, as your work here clearly shows. So I just wanted, before we get it going on everyone, I wanted to make sure that we really expressed our appreciation, not just in the daily way that we work with you, but in the long-term way you work with us. You've really done an excellent job in making sure that we are supported well.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you. And as much as I love this work, truly it is a growth. It's a group effort, and I'm so happy that we've been able to grow the staff for the Library Foundation as well over the last 4 years. And here we are now at 6 people, and it's so exciting.
So great. Okay, so I'm going to move, since we do have some public members, or are there any folks from the public that would like to make comment first? I'm looking, just one more line. All right, moving on. Commissioner Kelly, I think you had your hand raised first.
I did. Thank you very much. That was a wonderful report. I appreciate it. And I would like for us to have copies of these if we could get them, because it is important for us as we report back to the community. I'm glad that Chair Wendy brought forward when you started, because I was questioning myself what happened. And that's really a dynamic change. But also I'm curious how you continued the increase during the COVID era. I don't quite understand that. Obviously you didn't stop working, but there was so many other things on people's mind. How did that happen?
Thank you for the
Pandemic growth
question.
continued.
Yes, well, we're very fortunate. If you move to the previous slide, I think it is, Melissa, you'll see that nearly 40% of our income is from government sources, and the majority of that is from the city of San Jose. So we are grateful to have a fantastic partnership with them to be able to bring monies into the library and for programs that the city wants to have happen and administer, and the Library Foundation is that trusted partner to be able to administer some of these grants on behalf of the city as well. So that was part of it. But also, people recognize the value that the library has for them and for their family and their friends and their whole community during the pandemic, and being able to provide all of the services that it is that Jill and her staff have talked about for the last 2 years now about the work that they've been doing. And so as a nonprofit, we are incredibly fortunate to have such a strong programmatic partner that we can essentially just say, look, they're doing fantastic work and don't you want to support it? So I appreciate the good works, but it really is because the library is doing so much valuable work too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Vice Chair Magana.
Thank you. No question on my end, but I just really wanted to commend the foundation and Don for y'all's hard work and commitment to our city. The outcomes that y'all have are just extremely impressive, and I really just do appreciate all the work that y'all are doing in various areas, ranging from education to job creation and much more. So great work, and just really excited for what is to come. Keep up the great work, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Back to Commissioner Kelly. If you'll look in the notes in the chat, there's a link to the presentation that was provided to us in the agenda. So I just want to make sure you have access to it. Okay, I thought I saw another hand, but maybe not. Commissioner Tran, are you, or sorry, no, hands are down. Anybody else would like to give comment right now? Is the time.
I'd also like to just make a remark that if you do go to our main webpage, sjplf.org, under the About Us, there's a link to reports, and you'll see the 2021 annual report there, which has a lot of this information, a little bit more, as well as last year's for comparison.
Thank you so much, Dawn. And again, if you need anything more from us, please let us know. We really appreciate your partnership.
My pleasure.
All right, moving on to our budget update with Andrea. I think Jason's taking over the slides for us. And are we ready to go?
Hi, yes. Hi, good evening, everyone. If we can get to the slide deck, that'd be great. So we come to the commission a couple times a year to provide budget updates. And so this time, this update is to provide what we believe will be included in the proposed budget. And the proposed budget is set to be published in early May. And so things are still changing, even though we're so close to that publication date, but we want to provide you with an update in terms of what we believe to be included. And so the other thing that we'll do is just provide some background information, a reminder of kind of the budget actions that have happened over the past since the onset of the pandemic, 2021, and then the current year, 21-22. If you could go to the next slide. So these are the different areas we'll be reviewing today. The budget reductions that the library took in 2021, and then the 2021 adopted budget outcomes, which is the current year, and then the 22-23 city manager's budget direction, as well as the 22-23 operating budget proposals that we are anticipating to be included in the proposed budget, and then the capital budget proposals that we believe are going to be included in the proposed budget. We'll also review the annual budget process and timeline and look for or talk about any opportunities that the commission has for advocating for the library. Next slide, please. So For fiscal year 2021, the pandemic hit in March of 2020. And so at that time, we took some, I would say some, not reductions, but we had to do a hiring freeze. We had a number of measures that we took to avoid any impacts immediately. But effective July 1st, we did have some budget reductions that we were faced with. And so we had to minimize our service impacts. We did modified services throughout the period of COVID. We recognized some operational savings from shelter in place and closures, some costs for operating the building, of course. We also recognized savings from part-time unbenefited furloughs. The city of San Jose in May of 2020 furloughed all part-time unbenefited staff throughout the city. And so the library was definitely impacted by that, but it did generate some savings. Upon reopening, we had a reduction of 27.8 FTE vacant positions. And so although no employees were impacted, we did in fact have a reduction of 4 hours per week at all locations. And so that included King. So our operating hours at the branches went from 47 a week to 43. And then for King, it went from 77 hours to 73. And so we also had our wonderful foundation help out and fund positions on a one-time basis for us, which was very helpful. And so that was previously kind of touched on in the annual report of the foundation. Next slide, please. In 21-22, which is the current budget, we did receive one-time restoration of hours for the 13 branches that were identified as serving lower resource communities. And so what that equated to is 16.2 full-time equivalent. So that's the way the calculation of actual staffing. And so we got 13.2 library pages, librarians, as well as 2 literacy program specialists. All of these positions are limit dated, which means that they expire on June 30th, 2022. And so this is one-time funding to support these hours through this fiscal year through June 30th. We also were faced with a non-personal budget reduction. And so that was a one-time reduction, and that was tied to savings that we had associated with the King Library closure. We also, the foundation again was supporting a position funding for us this year on a one-time basis. And so equated to about 2.5 FTE. And so we really appreciated that support throughout the year. Next slide, please. Another set of funding that we did receive was federal funding, and this again is one-time funding. And so we received funding to support our SJ Access and community Wi-Fi efforts, our SJ Aspires administrative support. And so this is the purpose of the administrative support was to ensure that all of the donations were used for scholarships. So this was to fund any of those types of database build out, licenses, curriculum, and staffing to ensure that the donations were 100% used for scholarships. We did receive a one-time increase in our SJ Learns, $500,000 to expand the program for summer and after school learning. The city does have built in $1 million annually for SJ Learns, and so this was in addition to that $1 million. We also received FFN, Family, Friend, and Neighbor funding of $500,000 on a one-time basis for support for childcare providers. Next slide, please. And so as you saw in the previous slides, all of this year's additions were all one time. And so we are still faced with beginning July 1st, 2022, back at the 43 hours, per branch location and 73 hours at King, unless there was something that changed in the upcoming budget cycle. And so the budget direction that came from the city manager's budget office, which it was issued to all city departments, was that we could look at consideration of annualization of 21-22 one-time funded items. So the items that were previously one-time funded in the current year could be looked at and viewed for ongoing or again one time. Consideration of currently funded work streams. So the city considers those types of work streams. A lot of the federal funded programs that the library had, the SJ Access, SJ Aspires, the FFN funding, those are what the city considers those work streams. They were also interested in entertaining any net zero shifts that departments wanted to propose. And so those would be, if we wanted to make a budget add, we'd have to make an equivalent department reduction to offset that add. So ultimately it would equate to a net zero. They were also interested in proposals that would address the limited number of high priority ongoing needs. And so this was stressed. It was very limited for departments to be able to submit these types of proposals. Also priority or limited one-time proposals. Also stressed that those were only high priority items that departments were interested in moving forward. And again, this year, there was the citywide budgeting for equity review process. And so that process is in its second year and still, I believe it's still building momentum. So we did complete that process, and that was a process that was required for all departments throughout the budget proposal process. But I think that the most important thing to think about is the library already builds equity into everything we do, all of our programs and all the work we do. And so although there is this process now at the citywide basis for budgeting process, we as a department already have that built into our work. And so but it is important and great to see it at the citywide level and tied to the budget process. Next slide, please. So with that budget direction in mind, these are the budget proposals for the library's operating budget that we believe will be included in the proposed budget. And so for the hours that were one time in the current year, for the lower resource communities, the 13 branches back to the 47 hours a week, we believe that will be made ongoing on a permanent basis. So those 10 locations will still only have 43 hours. So we'll have a little bit of a split throughout the community in terms of hours of service. King Library hours will stay the same at 73 hours, which is still reduced, but we're getting additional staffing to support those hours. We also were successful in getting 2 additional security public safety staff, which is great. We currently only have 2.5 FTE allocated for all of our security throughout all of our branches, and then also our coordination at King. So we will end up with 4.5 FTE, and although still not the staffing that we would need, it's definitely a great increase to help support our public safety needs. We also were successful in making our one equity and inclusion staffing position permanent. So that has been a one-time position for 2 years now. And so this will now be a permanent position. And so we're very excited about that. We also believe that we will receive ongoing $500,000 in our budget from the general fund to support the FFN program. And so these are all proposals that we believe to be included. And so I want to stress that the document is still in flux and still moving. And so we won't know for sure until it's published in early May. Next slide, please. A continuation in terms of our operating budget proposals. We believe that we'll also get additional SJ Aspires administrative support funding. And this is to continue to support staff costs as well as any system or licensing associated with the program to ensure that all of the fundraising dollars go towards scholarships. We also believe we'll continue to get some device access and digital equity funding. These funds here will be from the federal funding that the city receives. We also did receive word that this grant to continue the Learning Resilience Corps program was approved by council. So this Californians for All Youth Workforce Program is for sure moving forward because it's grant funded by the state. We also did receive the $50,000 on an annual basis to support the foundation, which is part of the leveraging for the $250,000 of fundraising annually. And as you saw in their presentation, they're well above the $250,000 every year. So that is the annual item in our budget. And we also believe there'll be some portion of some additional SJ Learns program funding. That is pending review and approval. We still have a lot of back and forth and interaction regarding that item, but we do believe there will be some additional funding included from the American Rescue Plan, and it would be one time. Next slide, please. Now we get into our capital budget. And so our capital budget, we believe we'll have some funding allocated towards HVAC system replacements and upgrades, boiler replacements, roof replacements and repairs. We also have a huge project budgeted for the King Library, which is the lighting retrofit project. And we have some IT infrastructure projects, which include Wi-Fi upgrades and a security incident case management system. We do have a system, and so we're looking to upgrade and try to see what's out in the market if we can get a better system. We also have an increase to our collections budget to allocate additional funds for e-resources, ebooks, e-audiobooks for all age levels, as well as languages. Next slide, please. Now we're in the city's annual budget process. So we are already in April, but just going back a little bit. So December, the budget direction was released by the city manager. January, our budget proposals were all due. February is when the commission had their budget position message reviewed and adopted by the commission. And then it moved forward to council and the mayor. And then in March, the mayor's March budget message was released. There was also the public hearing. And then we moved into April. So through the months of February, March, and April, we had a lot of interaction with the budget office, a lot of back and forth in regards to our budget proposals. And now we're at the tail end of the budget. On May 2nd is supposed to be released. And so this is the proposed operating and proposed capital budget. And then following that, there'll be a number of meetings, the community budget meetings, there'll be the public study sessions, public hearings at city council, as well as city council budget request process, in which the council members have the opportunity to submit budget requests and try to move those through the process. And so in a previous year, we were successful at one time increasing Mount Pleasant hours through that process. And so there's been a number of items that the library has received through the budget request process through the council offices. And then in June, on June 6th, the mayor's June budget message is released. And June 13th, the final public hearing, and the 14th is the mayor's June budget message, and budget is approved. And then the final budget adoption on the 21st. I'm sorry, that's cut off. I don't know if it's cut off on everyone's screen, but it's cut off on mine. And then I think that's the final adoption. But there's plenty of opportunities throughout the month of May for our commission to advocate for library services, and I am available. Oh, I think this is it. Next slide, please. Okay. So if you could go back to the previous slide. So we will definitely be providing you with the dates and times of those meetings where, and if you're available or interested in attending and participating and advocating for the library, we would love that. And we can have those sent over to commission. If there's any questions, I can take those now.
Thank you. I'm going to do a couple of business house or cleanup orders. Let's see. I want to welcome Commissioner Ramos and Malilo. Thank you for joining. We're so happy that you're here. I just wanted to say one thing before we get into the budget questions, which I know we'll get deeper, but for the new commissioners, if you want to see these presentations, when you receive your agenda in each of the items, there'll be a hyperlink. Just click on it and it'll take you to it so you can review them in advance. So I want to clear that one up. And then also I wanted to point out to all commissioners and staff who know this already, as you see these presentations, you often see called out certain things around equity and inclusion. This is the way that the library has gone at, in particular, and actually ahead of the game, equity and inclusion, whether it's talking about the quality standards through all the age groups. It was very clear that equity, diversity, inclusion, what needed to be addressed in each area, whether it's from our budgetary point of view. We certainly have now, I'm so glad to see, is secured the staffing for that. So it's not as if the library system, from my point of view, says, oh, we're going to have this ad hoc committee and that's all we're going to do. In fact, we're so far advanced that it's in everything we do. Now, we can always use more and we always will do more, but I just kind of want to call it out when I see it because I know it often comes up. How is it being addressed? And it's being addressed in this particular way. That being said, I see a question. Before we go there, any questions from the public or any comments from the public? All right, Commissioner Allen, Ramos Allen.
Thank you, Chair Wendy. If we could move back a few slides prior to the capital budget operating, but here we go. Well, maybe the one before that. Yes, that one. So I had the pleasure of serving on the ad hoc committee for our budget message, and am very grateful to you, to the staff, for walking me through it. I seem to remember and recall that I like people to tell me no, so I said we should ask for everything, because please tell me no. And I do remember at the city council meeting, there was a vote to include the full restoration of hours. And I'm not entirely sure that I see that here. And if I missed it, please point it out to me. And if it's not in here, do you happen to know why?
So there was a vote or a supplemental memo from a council member to provide the cost. And so we are doing what's called a manager's budget addendum, an MBA memo, and that would provide the cost to the council and mayor and city administration for fully restoring hours at the branches as well as King. But I see Jill has unmuted herself, so she can definitely chime in.
No, thank you, Andrea, and thank you for the question, Commissioner. So I do think that's an important point to clarify. Even I can tell you, yesterday I was presenting at City Council about something else, and one of the council members came up and talked to me, and they were confused by this. So what happened was there was the conversation at the council. They've clarified that they would like to understand. They would like to see the library hours restoration. And they even said that they would like to see the cost of Sunday hours provided to them. So an expansion of hours, recognizing that Sundays are really important in our community. And but what Andrea is presenting is that the city manager's base budget proposal is likely to only include a restoration at 13 branches. And so it's restoration of 4 hours that were reduced at 13 branches. And so we would still have the Pearl, Rose Garden, Berryessa, Willow Glen, Santa Teresa, Cambrian, Almaden, Vineland, Calabasas, and Village Square branches would still be at the reduced level. And then, as Andrea said, we've been asked to provide the cost of what it would take to get all the branches restored, and then also the cost of some scenarios of Sunday hours. We have said many times that they need to call this a partial restoration, because I think that I'm afraid it might be misleading. And so I'm hoping that the word partial will get into the manager's budget when it's released.
As a follow-up, so I don't want to step on Commissioner Thorson's question, but as a follow-up, is it, if we can advance back to the slide with all of the dates, there we go. The public hearing at City Council will be on the 17th of May. And I'm wondering if we should provide, well, if the city manager would like to, is providing a supplemental addendum, if the library commission is able to provide a follow-up letter. And I don't know if we have quorum to make that sort of, we're an advisory committee, so commission. So I know that we're just advisory, but I'm disappointed, particularly because my library is not included in that. And I've been waiting to be able to continue on with the full restoration of hours there. So I just wanted to pose that question to the rest of the group and to staff as to whether that's feasible, possible, advisable, etc., because I think that that is a little misleading and would and also I see this list of I see this list and I'm concerned, that there are libraries in areas that have higher need for a restoration of hours, and would not be equitable if we didn't, fully restore them. So just gonna lay that out there and then let everyone else talk.
Thank you, Commissioner.
If I could just add, thank you for that. And I do think it is important to note, and our data team has shown that there are, neighborhoods of need in just about every section of the city. So that is important. The community budget meetings that will be scheduled between May 9th and May 27th, there are usually folks who come to each one of those who say that libraries are important to them. And I do think that's important because that's where our leadership really listens to the community and here's where their priorities are. So those are also, we'll definitely share out the dates of those as we find them out.
I agree with, just to put a exclamation on it with Commissioner Ramos, I can just say, for example, my library is Almaden, and I can tell you the perception of Almaden is not exactly what it is. There's pockets in particular around Pioneer High School, in that particular area, that this is their library. And so for them, having access and full restoration is really important too, even though it's not the full population. So I certainly will join Commissioner Ramos in any of those advocacy sessions to make sure that our thoughts as the Library Commission is heard. Thank you for that. Commissioner Thorson. You're on mute. Sorry.
I lowered my hand instead of unmuting myself. Sorry about that. So I completely agree with you, Commissioner Ramos, and you actually asked the question about the memo that I was curious about. But I had a follow-up question, which is also kind of related to the memo, but since the memo had proposed Sunday hours, I was curious. I believe as long as I've lived in this city, which is 9 years now, only King Library has had Sunday hours and the branch libraries haven't. And I was curious, at any point in the past, has the library had branch hours on Sundays?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Actually, we've just been asked that by a council office as well. So we're doing some digging. I believe it was prior to the pretty large cuts that happened in the later part of the 2000s. When the branches were all only open 4 days per week when I came here in 2013. So so we're looking at the historic record of what we can find in terms of which branches were open, but also if there's any data about how busy they were. I can tell you, just in the public library world and my entire career, Sunday hours are typically hour for hour the busiest day of the week. And what's great about them is that it really attracts a different clientele in some ways. You'll have students doing their homework before Monday, of course, but you'll also have multi-generational families coming to the library because that's a day when they can get together. So I've always loved Sunday hours, and I always hoped that we would be able to expand to Sunday. And as the commission knows, we had actually been on that track prior to the pandemic, being able to expand our budget to be able to add some Sunday hours. So it's good to get back to that, at least, sort of in spirit, and hopefully we can realize that soon. But we can provide that information at a future meeting as well.
Okay, that sounds great. And I just wanted to say I agree with everyone that, the libraries that won't currently get hours fully restored definitely, of course, serve under-resourced community members. And one of the things I noticed in my district, District 6, the two branches that haven't had their hours fully restored, Rose Garden and Willow Glen, and I've noticed this for a lot of other libraries in the city, are surrounded by public schools and preschools and private schools. So I think that's important to take into consideration, because often the cuts mean that the libraries open a bit later on a couple of weekdays. And so just thinking in terms of like school drop-offs and times when parents or caregivers are dropping some children off at school, and then it would be nice to have the library open to bring other children or pick up books, etc. So just something I've noticed and would really, of course, as I feel like everyone probably knows, that I would really advocate for the full restoration.
Thank you, Commissioner. So Jill, if you and staff believe that a secondary memo for this is useful, I'm happy to sign off on behalf of the commission. If you feel it's better that we show up and do it live and in person, happy to ask commissioners all to do that as well. Just know we're here for you, whatever staff recommends.
I would say that it's the commission's purview, as was stated. You advise the council. And so, and you know, several members of the commission have been absolutely amazingly articulate in the past, coming to council meetings and community meetings, and being on that message that you've all created. I can't see the harm in doing a second memo if you'd like to. And if you'd like support with that, our team can support.
Is anybody on the commission opposed to us doing that?
I would just jump in, Chair Wendy, and say that because this is not agendized as an action, any feedback that the commission gives would just be feedback instead of direction or like a final vote. And based on the budget process, I'm not sure that if a memo is drafted from the ad hoc committee, which was their purview, that would come back for review just based on timeline. So I think, just putting it out there that there's no definitive action taken and you won't have review.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping us in order. So my thoughts are, I highly encourage commissioners to show up at those dates that will get sent out again to remind us and get on our calendars to provide advocacy support for restoration of full hours and addition of Sunday hours. Right? Okay, any other questions or thoughts? Thank you, Anne, for keeping us in check. All right, then we are going to move on. We're moving past D as it was. There we go. We're moving on to our council liaison. I think today is Patty Andrade.
Yes, thank you. I'm Patty Andrade and I'm with Councilwoman at Enos's office. Again, sorry about the camera issue. I do have a few announcements today. I don't know how many of you know, but Councilwoman at Enos hosted her Kids Care Fair at Welch Park earlier in the month. It was a huge success. You could tell that people were ready to be out, enjoying the weather. It was great weather and getting to know their neighbors. We had over 200 families attend. We had free music, activities, food, and so much more. We had a blast. Like, the day went by so fast. We couldn't believe how quickly the day went. And the only thing we were bummed is our feet hurt, but we had the best of time. It was so great to be out there again. And also last week, Councilwoman at Enos partnered with the International Children Assistance Network, known as ICANN, to proclaim April as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month. This year, the National Child Abuse Prevention Month theme selected by the Children's Bureau is Thriving Children and Families, Prevention with Purpose. By making commitments to purposeful action rather than just raising awareness, we can treat the root causes of maltreatment and promote the safety and well-being of children in San Jose together. And finally, we hope you'll join us at the next City Council meeting on Tuesday, April 26th, where Council will approve a spending plan of $10.5 million in American Rescue Plan funds to support child and youth-focused programs and services. This proposed one-time funding will enhance existing programs already led by our parks and library departments, as well as expand scholarships, tutoring, mental health support, and more. To dive deeper into the proposal and learn more about how its outcomes center equity, you can access the staff memorandum on item 7.1 through Legistar, and we welcome your feedback. The District 18 will be in touch in the next few days with more details regarding this opportunity to advocate for resources that equitably support the well-being of children and families in San Jose. And if you would like more questions, you can go ahead and connect with Mariela, and she will be more than happy to share more with you. If you have any questions, go ahead and take those.
Thank you. Anyone from the public? All right, commissioners, any questions or comments to be asked and or passed on to Councilwoman Arenas? All right, she has our gratitude. Thank you for pinch hitting, Patty. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Moving on, I have two announcements. I would have said about the 10.5 million, so thank you. That's already, I'd love to have folks join City Council on the 26th and advocate for and give feedback on how the monies can be best spent for our children and youth in the city. There are just two things I want to uplift. One is I was very lucky to participate in the city county collaborative meeting between the city and county government officials, government elected officials on the wellness of children in the county. There were all kinds of folks there from First Five, and of course our wonderful library system showed up and talked all about the stuff we're doing, as well as Parks and Recs, and then the county's portion of it as well. It was, as they continue, I appreciate that the city and the county continue to work together to look at ways to make more efficient and effective the services and activities for children and families. The second thing I have to announce, I was lucky enough to also attend Supervisor Ellenberg's at the children's table. We almost had quorum because so many commissioners from the library were there. No, we were very careful. It was lovely, lovely, wonderful event that also uplifted not only the children, but the folks that take care of children. And in particular, I enjoyed the panel discussion on women coming back into the workforce with a gap and how that is actually a benefit versus the discussion around versus being seen as a deficit when interviewing women who have either stayed home to be a caregiver or stayed home as a mom and or any other reason. This predominantly happens for women. So the table that really discussed this and as it impacts well-being of children and families in our county was very articulate and so wonderful. So I hope Susan or Commissioner, I hope Susan Ellenberg continues this annual event because it is really wonderful. We were very lucky. The star of the show was Vice Chair Magana's daughter, who was giving out the wonderful awards to those that were recognized in community. She was certainly the highlight of our day. Those are my announcements. I think we're moving on. Yep, there we go to our library director's announcements.
Thank you, Chair Wendy. Also, I was going to mention that the library will be one of the presenters at the April 26th council meeting, discussing potential uses of the 10.5 million in American Rescue Plan dollars that's been set aside for youth services. And just so the commission is aware, the library is proposing a few elements of that plan. What you'll see are largely enhancements to existing programs that won't be surprised to you to have a greater reach during the summer months this year, as well as some enhancements to the San Jose Learns program, and an augmentation of the program to reach more children through the traditional program, as well as a new program that would be one-on-one tutoring. And so we'll bring more information about that to the commission once that funding is approved. And I have a few announcements. The San Jose Public Library's new expanded hours did take effect at the lower resource branches that you heard about earlier on April 4th. We're able to finally increase the public access to those branches including Sundays at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Library in downtown San Jose. Of course, you can always find about the hours at sjpl.org/hours. And for our newer commissioners, I'll let you know that the delay in being able to implement the expanded hours or the restored hours at those locations was largely due to vacancies and the delays in filling vacancies due to ongoing issues around COVID. And so we're very pleased to have finally been able to restore them on April 4th. Also, it's National Volunteer Week. It's April 17th to the 23rd. So we hope you join us in recognizing our volunteers for all their wonderful work that they do at the library. Despite the challenges of the pandemic, library volunteers have contributed more than 19,000 hours in virtual activities and nearly 6,000 hours in in-person support during the last fiscal year. Branches and units at the King Library are honoring their volunteers with in-person and virtual recognition events and letters of appreciation all week. And branch staff will also be selecting a Volunteer of the Year for a special system-wide recognition. So thanks to all of our amazing volunteers. Also, I wanted to highlight a program that the library launched within the past year. It is a free library by mail service for San Jose residents who cannot visit their library due to a temporary or permanent physical disability. So through this service, enrolled residents may place holds online or through a liaison librarian, and library staff then packs up their holds and mails them out to them at no cost. So we really appreciate all the work done by our Disability Access Committee and library staff to get this program successfully launched. And for more information, please visit sjpl.org/library by mail. And please tell your friends, neighbors, and family about this service if it could be of use to them. We really want to get the word out. Next, the San Jose Public Library has joined other public libraries across the state to offer vehicle parking passes for eligible California state parks for checkout. So initially, every branch received one pass per location, and additional passes are expected to be distributed in the next few weeks. So for more information, including a list of participating state parks, you can visit our website, /CA Park Pass. And then lastly, April is National Poetry Month. So to celebrate, the San Jose Public Library is hosting a poetry contest for the month of April. Submissions will be accepted through our short edition portal for students 13 and plus, and by email for students 13 and younger. Submissions will be published on our short edition platform, and prizes will be awarded for first, second, and third place winners in each age category. We're also celebrating poetry with an open mic for all ages on April 21st from 7 to 9 p.m. and a poetry workshop for teens and adults on April 22nd from 4 to 5 p.m. So for more information about all these events and the contest guidelines and the categories and how to submit your work, please visit the library's website at sjpl.org. That concludes my announcements. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Commissioner Kelly.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to thank you for that report. But also I wanted to mention at the last meeting, volunteer hours were given out, and my question was in dollar amounts, how does that work out? And I did get an answer from one of your staff people. So the total amount of volunteer hours contributed to San Jose Public Library based on the 2021 volunteer hours report was almost $750,000. So wow. That kind of puts a little smile on everybody's face that the volunteers that are being appreciated this month and this week really work hard. I know that's an underreported thing because some of the people I work with at Bascom, excuse me, are not really good about reporting their hours, but that's an amazing number. So congratulations to the volunteers.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. That's spectacular. I'm just going to add a little quickie for it being the poetry month. I have a little poem for the library. Are you ready? I know it's off the cuff, but so we'll see how good I am. Roses are red, violets are blue. I love the library. How about you? All right, that was mine for tonight. Moving on. Okay, it can't be all that serious. Let's see. We have announcements from any commissioners that would like to make an announcement. I'm looking around. Any poetry jam? Somebody want to go up against me? Commissioner Kelly.
So this is about the Friends groups. First of all, I want to thank the library staff. It took about 6 people working very diligently to get me involved in the All Friends group. And I'm happy to announce that I finally am a legitimate member of the All Friends group and receive information from them, and I'm able to pass it on. So thank you for your hard work to get me involved in that. I'm also happy to announce, at least for the libraries that I work with, that as of today, all of the Friends groups at Pearl, Cambrian, and Bascom will have had book sales. So we're finally putting together some monies that we can begin to share back with you. Also, we'll mention that I've had meetings with the branch manager for Cambrian and Pearl, Chu Nguyen, and she's been very helpful in getting us together to work with the Friends groups there and making sure that they're on target. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for all your work, Commissioner Kelly.
Yep.
Any other commissioners like to make an announcement? All right, then I'm going to move it to Commissioner Thorson, who may have an update on our Library Foundation.
Yes, I guess I may have missed it, was going to say for meetings attended by commissioners. I attended 2 meetings with the advocacy committee with Councilmember Cohen and Councilmember Davis to indicate our support for the full restoration and Sunday hours for the libraries, and just wanted to encourage any other commissioners who have the time to make a meeting with your council member. We heard at the meeting that is an effective way to advocate. And I don't know if there's any other commissioners who attended meetings who want to mention that now, but if not, I can go on, but I'll pause for a moment.
Yes, I worded it a little differently. Sorry, Commissioner Thorson. I was announcements and or if there were meetings you attended as a commissioner that you'd like to share. Same topic but thank you. Does anyone else want to do that with the clarification of the purpose? All right, back to you, Commissioner Thorson.
Thank you. So I have a few updates and I'll drop some links in, but as I mentioned, I'll also send these have these sent out via email just so you have them that way too. So it's exciting that the commission will, the Library Foundation is going to be hiring an executive assistant and board liaison. So if you know someone who might be interested in the position, I'm pasting the link into the chat, and you're welcome to share that and encourage people to apply. The foundation has a really excellent staff and seems like a really wonderful place to work. Also wanted to mention that the first in-person major event for the foundation is coming up on April 28th from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. in support of SJ Aspires. So I'm going to drop that link into, and the goal is to collectively raise $2.5 million to enroll 400 new 9th graders in fall 2022 in SJ Aspires for their entire high school journey. So feel free to share that with your contacts and spread the word and attend yourself. And then in other very exciting news, for Library Giving Day, the foundation had a $35,000 match, and that was met and exceeded. Over $100,000 has been raised, and there were 336 new donors, which is very exciting. And then lastly, just wanted to say that the work of the advocacy committee continues. If any of you are interested in participating, let me and John know. We'd be happy to include you. As I mentioned, one way to get involved is to schedule meetings with your council members. There's also a page on the foundation's website that has talking points and links to email council members directly. So share that with your contacts and spread the word that the library hours haven't been fully restored so that everyone's aware of that we need to advocate and support that. And I see that there is a question in the chat from Commissioner Reyes. What are the requirements to join the Library Foundation? Dawn, did you want to talk about that?
So no requirements. Everybody is welcome to join us. We're not technically a membership organization. If your question is more, how do commissioners become the liaison in the same way that Commissioner Thorson is, then that's a slightly separate conversation that we'd be happy to have separately. But otherwise, it's come get involved with us, follow us on social media, repost, retweet, come to events, let people know about us. If you have the means and ability to donate at any level, we are very grateful for that as well.
John, I wonder if we could clarify how the commissioners can find out about all the awesome foundation events.
Yes, so we on our website, there is on the landing page, there is a part that says join our newsletter. So that's probably the easiest way, is to get on the email list, and we'll send you out what's happening, and then also the various different social media channels as well.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Is that anything else, Commissioner Thorson, or are we ready to move?
That was it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, moving on. If any commissioner or staff would like to share upcoming events that they'll be participating in, or they'd like to share with others to participate in, now is your time. If you would like to do that, let me know, raise your hand, and I'll call on you. All right, going once, twice, 3 times. All right. Yes.
Can I just note that, the library does maintain a robust calendar of events. And for any open events, commissioners are always welcome to attend. And we always welcome you and are happy to host you for those. So even virtual events. So we usually encourage commissioners to check out our calendar, and then feel free to connect with us if you have any questions.
And again, it's hyperlinked on our agenda under this item, right? Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. We have new commissioners, so we're trying to sneak in some of the onboarding for you as we go through the agenda. Okay, let's see, where are we now? All right, we're moving on to folks that would like to suggest any agenda items that are not covered in the work plan. If there's anyone who would like to suggest, and certainly Jill will take into consideration, items that we would like to consider that is not on the work plan. Commissioner Kelly.
Thank you. Yeah, that's something I've been brought up a couple of times at the meeting, so I'm glad that it's on here. When this agenda item came on, I contacted the staff member who was preparing the agenda and asked them if we could have a report on all of the commissioners' requests for items for future meeting agendas. And I didn't get an answer to that. So I would imagine there's more than 3 people that have suggested agenda items. I know there's one item that I had suggested is missing from the listing that's in here as well. So if there's any possibility of getting a complete listing of all of the commissioners' suggestions for agenda items, I think that would be a good place to keep moving forward on this. It's so important.
Jill, I defer to you on staff allocation of time.
I was just curious, Commissioner Kelly, could you tell us what item that you've requested that hasn't been?
Sure.
Did?
Yeah, I asked at one point how to find out what happens to suggestions from the general public for filling collections and how we can be involved as the library system in increasing public support of collection systems through corporate or private donations of books. That's one of the, there's a couple of other ones too that I can go back on my my minutes and see what they were, but that's the one that was not in there.
So the collections update was provided, and maybe one of my team can remind me if it was January.
Yes, Jill, the collections item was January. Commissioner Kelly, my memory might be a little bit loose on this. That might have been the meeting that you had missed. And so we can circle back and make sure that you have all of the information that was presented and can follow up on any of your questions.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Also, if you, and I know you, or Jill, actually through Jill, now that we're all recorded, you certainly can just send the link because it's all there. And I think Commissioner Ramos pointed out that it is in our minutes. And so if you're really interested in seeing and getting it, it's in our minutes and it's in all the recordings at the end. It always is at the last minutes of the agenda. It's one of the last items before adjournment. So there's a way to go back to look for that as well.
And I was going to say, Commissioner Kelly, I know that staff attempted to include that information that you had asked for previously in that presentation, but if there's anything that you're not getting an answer to when you go back and watch it, please let us know.
Perfect. Any other folks that want to suggest items that should be considered by Jill and her team for upcoming meetings that's not on the work plan? All right, we are now at 8:41 and we will adjourn. Happy Easter, Passover, Ramadan, all those things for everyone. I can't wait to see you and welcome new commissioners. We appreciate your service and we'll see you next time. Night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.